welcome our viewers to our Uzalendo News one-on-one interview with Madam President and the founder of Public Service Governance. It's interesting that today we want to find out more about public service governance. It's something that is coming up, and we want to hear from the horse's mouth, the founder herself. Madam President, welcome to this live interview.
Thank you.
And probably maybe tell us, public service governance, what's this?
In public service governance, we promote good, accountable, responsible, peaceful and divine governance. We have decided to start with the Republic of Kenya and move to other suffering democracies, because always goodness must start at home. Public service governance is working towards lasting and sustainable peace in governance in the Republic of Kenya. And we have tried to get the root cause of breach of peace in the country, breach of economic meltdown, breach of unity and people living for the sake of others. And because we always are told by strategists that in order to address a problem once and for all, we have brought in a dossier that is called Kenya Bila Uchaguzi.
And Kenya being a democracy, as it is today, where every citizen is entitled to vote whoever he wants and all that. Madam, here you're talking about Kenya Bila Uchaguzi.
Yes.
Do you think this narrative, as it may be, does it deprive citizens of this country the democratic right to vote?
Allow me to say that what has a beginning has an end. And we are the lawmakers. And law was made for man, not man for the law. That means if a law is taking the country down the drain, if there is a particular law that is making us to fight after every 5 years, then why discard the law? And that is why we have had, before Kenya Bila Uchaguzi, we have two more initiatives that have come up. We have the Punguza Mzigo initiative that failed. We have now the Building Bridges initiative. Why? As a result of this law called election, representation of the people through elections. And in the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, Chapter 1, Item 2, it talks about that the people of Kenya has the sovereign right to be governed either directly or indirectly. Indirectly through the elected representatives, but now we would like to strengthen the direct governance, where the people of Kenya will obtain services through the ministries of government directly, where they pay the taxes. They get services directly from the Ministry of Water, from the Ministry of Energy, from the Ministry of Education, instead of having the middlemen representation. We are totally doing away with the representation structure and embracing direct governance.
In a country where politics has been the order of the day, and PSG intends to change this thing to a country where where people will be represented without necessarily going into elections and maybe electing. But now the challenge I'm seeing, I can foresee personally, and I don't know how you'll handle it, is the same laws. If this thing has to come into actualization, and then it might mean that there will be a change of law.
Yes.
The law is made by the elected leaders. How do you think you will go about maybe convincing them? Then we change about, then we come to an unelected government.
Thank you very much. We are very much aware, PSG is very much aware for that anyone to be able, number one, the Constitution of Kenya gives any Kenyan the right to propose a system of governance that would suit the nation. That is one. Then number two, it gives options of how such an initiative, changing the system of governance, can be adopted. Number one, the Constitution talks about the popular initiative. The popular initiative is what PSG has been talking about, and correcting signatures. And actually, we had already been given a go-ahead by IBC to be able to correct signatures, and now we have, yes, we are still on the journey. But we also realize that the same signatures will go to the members of parliament, and they are the same people that we are ejecting into, we are removing into leadership. And well, that poses a challenge, but I always say, whatever is in the perfect interest and the will of God, it doesn't matter who you are. The will of God must take preeminence. The will of God must take an upper hand away from our thinking, our systems, our culture of doing things. So we have two ways. Number one, we are correcting signatures, yes, and we will get. Kenyans are tired of elections already. Wanjiko is tired. In fact, Wanjiko wants now to concentrate on development, on her own development. Then number two, we are looking at the possibility, like of what I said yesterday during the event that we have, that we proclaim the existence of a PSG government. Sometimes they say sometimes you have to move and take it by force. You just have to move and take it by force, especially when situations right now Kenyans are asking, what is happening in our country? When doctors are almost going on strike, when our teachers are almost going on strike, when COVID has hit and we are on politics 24/7, we must take a break. And that's why we said, yes, the politicians may not pass it into law, but we have another superpower that PSG is depending on. In fact, what we are bringing on board is a very divine government where the authority of God influences everything that happens, including the authority of God is going to influence the transition of elected to non-elected government, because it is his will now that the country becomes one, so that his goodness can reign in this country.
Talking of doctors and maybe the public service.
Yes.
We are in a system that we all know that is already rotten in terms of corruption, in terms of how they do their things. Here we are talking about divinity and a process that is driven by God.
Yeah.
What is your take? Like we are having generations that are coming, and these generations are already coming into a system that is rotten, into a system that is corrupt. They keep inheriting these things.
Yes.
How does PSG plan to go about this?
Thank you very much. PSG is not envisaging the status quo. The status quo is where Kenya has been taking cases of those corrupt individuals to the courts. And the courts continue piling the cases day after day. What PSG is bringing on board is a total moral revolution, if I may call it so. A total change of mindset, from a negative mindset to a positive mindset. We want to inject the spirit of living for the sake of one another. That is our PSG motto, actually, living for the sake of one another. We want to inject the spirit of living for one another in each and every individual in this country. Because when the public servants are living for the sake of the Wanjiko, then they will be able to give them services. I go for an office where I require an ID. I will not need to bribe my way through, because the person I'll find in that office is living for my sake as a citizen. So the person is obliged by the inner morality to serve me as a Kenyan. So the culture of corruption will not be drained away, will not go away because of taking cases to the courts only. No, the culture of corruption will be wiped away by ensuring that we embrace a culture of living for the sake of one another and embrace a high moral standing in government and in our society. And this is also going to bring down the social moral degradation, because we are suffering as a society. Everybody is like, how much do I get out of her? How much do I get out of him? It has become a man-eat-man society. How do we then change that? Where are our morals gone? The fear of God. We intend to inculcate in the society the fear of God. Because when we fear God, when we love God, we will be able to take each and everybody as a brother and a sister, and we will be able to serve them appropriately.
So talking about a few things that will require a very vibrant economy.
Yes.
You've been talking about infrastructure, you've talked about energy, you've talked about science and technology, you're talking about health, water and sanitization, environment and all that. These are things that can come into actualization when we are having a very, very vibrant economy.
Yes.
But for the past 10 years, with our emotive elections, we've had an economy that is always on the down, on the downside trend. How do you, as PSG, how do you intend to go about this? Now that one of the things you did highlight, you want to be growing the economy probably by double digits.
Yes.
How do you intend to go about all this?
P has highly been affected, number one, by high and very extreme, expensive electoral processes. We have seen formally election materials being imported, being printed from other external companies out of the country. We have seen the same BVL kits that cost billions fail in the process of transmission. Telling you what? Does it mean substandardness, or what could be the cause? We have seen huge amounts of money being spent by politicians to campaign. Somebody told me one day, if you want to be a president in the Republic of Kenya, or if you want to run for the presidency in the country, you need to pile up at least 4 billion. Then the question is, if the president probably need to go for 4 billion, an MP probably 2 billion, a governor probably 3 billion, an MCA probably 1 billion to win campaigns, then what are we saying? Are we not draining our economy through the elective, expensive electoral process? How much money do we use to campaign as a country? How much money do we use to conduct general election? From voter registration exercise, I've just talked about buying voter registration materials out of the country, sustaining the Independent Electoral Commission. How much do we use to pay returning officers, presiding officers, election officers, and how much do we spend on infrastructure, logistics, on elections? How many vehicles does IEBC hire? I've been in the electoral process, I've been a presiding officer, yes. So I know what it entails for a full electoral process to go through. So, in terms of the economic impact, there is a huge gap that is left economically after any election is done in the country. And in this regard, all this money, what PSG is proposing is that all this money that is used to do elections will be used now to pay our doctors well, to pay our teachers well, to give them a conducive environment to do whatever they have to do in terms of service delivery.
Talking of changing the style of how we do things.
Yeah.
Maybe moving from an elective government to a PSG government. It needs strategy, and this strategy may even include the transition, and it will involve maybe a change of law. You've talked about collecting signatures.
Yes.
Are we looking at probably a situation where in the near future, maybe after the BBI, we will have another collection of signatures and another constitutional amendment thing to have the PSG government into the system? Okay,
2 issues. Number one, we are not waiting for BBI. Actually, now we have hit 350,000 signatures being collected in the country. As per now, we have not done the total. So as today, we don't know. That's about 3 weeks ago or so. Up to now, we don't know how many. However, we are not relying on that process 100%, because as I said, desperate situations call for desperate measures. We can't wait to take this bill to Parliament, and the same people that we are removing from elected government brings down the bill. No, this is the perfect will of God, and that I've always said. So sometimes we don't take it through the process, the process that we know. However, we are determined. We can even get 10 million signatures. But due to the status quo in the country, the situation now is demanding for something new to come up quickly and be able to provide solutions. It is a time that that Kenyans must enjoy what we call self-governance. Self-governance is where we have Kenyans at the ward level determining what kind of kettle dips they want, what kind of roads they want, which village does not have water, which school does not have desks. We want to involve them. We want to involve them at the local level. I would like to share about the structure, how the structure of the PSG government will be like. Our proposal is only 15 ministries of government only. We don't want 40 or 50. or 30 even. Why? The wage bill right now is so high. I've just talked about the economy that has been affected seriously. Number one, by every expensive electoral cycle after every 5 years. So, we would like a very real government. Therefore, we are constituting 15 ministries of government only. The 15 ministries at the national level will be devolved in the current devolution structure. We will have again 15 directorates of the ministries at each and every county of this country. We will devolve the directorates further to each and every constituency in the country. Then at the ward level, we shall have extension officer. Like in a particular ward in Kenya, we shall have extension officer water, extension officer education, extension officer agriculture. The report that they will be taking from the village development committees, say for example, is a report on education. It will be taken to the constituency directorate of education, then passed on to the county directorate of education. They will come down to the grassroots, inspect that particular project, and then of course that particular ministry at the national level will have released funds to the directorate of that particular ministry at the county level. Therefore, the funds will be released after ascertaining that indeed there is need for that particular project at the ward level. We are in the process of constituting an organ called the Governing Council. Right now, of course, we have a sitting president. I, as the sitting public service president, because I must see it to the very end that the public service government is up and running. Then with that, we can probably have another CEO, chief executive, who will be able to take over from that point and will be appointed by the Governing Council. How? Any Kenyan who will have seen how a public service government is run will submit the application to the Governing Council, will be vetted, must meet the qualifications. The criteria will be very, very, very weighty. Actually, that person must qualify, and that person will then be appointed as president.
You talked about character-based education. PSG intends to implement this. Do you think this is the disconnect probably in our education system, given what's happening around with our young kids who are already coming into a system that is rotten?
Definitely, this is the disconnect. Character education in schools. Look at our children. After they leave university, after they leave colleges, what is happening? We are already seeing 2 weeks ago children into drugs, children into homosexuality, children into early pregnancy. What is really happening? Character education in schools. Therefore, PSG is now bringing a ministry of education that is character-based. And this will ensure that this course is examinable. Students must qualify so that by the time they leave these institutions of learning, we will have the system, the education system will have already prepared them to be role models in the society.
Before you thought of PSG, one of the key people maybe you would have consulted are the religious leaders. What is the reception?
All right, well, I did not consult them really, because sometimes when the will of God is the will of God, you don't consult so much. It was about informing them what is the will of God like, and yes, they have taken this very positively, and we salute. Yesterday you saw the religious fraternity from the Hindu Council to the Muslim society to the Sikh community. Actually, the Sikh community to a great extent are really working together with us. Why? Because they like peace. I would say across the spectrum, the entire religious fraternity is behind PSG. Why? Because actually what PSG is doing, we are actualizing the pulpit. Do you know what is the pulpit? Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come.
Madam President, when do you expect to see your cabinet functioning?
Thank you very much. Indeed it is. Yes, on the 26th of November, the year 2020, the PSG government was launched with the theme, Thy Kingdom Come. And indeed, we have taken the first step. We are starting now to send out applications for people who have qualified. And even before we send the applications, Kenyans have started coming through. I think I have several of them already who are interested to take up cabinet positions so that right away we start looking for funds. We start now taking up what is aiding Kenyans. We know we're in the season of COVID. PSG need to come up with very firm strategies on how to address the issue of COVID. And definitely Kenyans, we promise you that very soon COVID will be a thing of the past.
We talked about land reforms.
Yes.
And land is a very, very emotive issue in this country.
Yeah.
Probably, how do you intend, as we close the show, how do you intend, probably for the sake of Kenyans who are listening to you, how do you intend to go about this from our past experience?
Indeed, land has become a very, very emotive issue in this country. Everyone is learning for land. We have actually seen families killing each other because of land. Therefore, PSG is coming on board to be able, number one, to help Kenyans know what is the difference between community land, public land, private land, and what are the procedures of land entitlement. Right now, at the Ministry of Lands, I have heard 2, 3, 4, 5 Kenyans saying that for me to get a title, I must bribe 1, 2, 3 officers. This is a culture that we must bring to an end. Another culture is that we have seen, due to the high rate of corruption in Kenya, that just one title deed is owned by several people. This is very, very, very unfortunate. That I own a piece of land, I sell it to another person, I sell it to a third person because of money. A corrupt society, a society that its morals are completely gone. That's why PSG is living number one, bringing the issue of living for the sake of others, even in matters land. That from now, Kenyans will rightfully own their land because they deserve it, because because it's theirs, not because there is a system of a big brother, where we are living. We saw it even recently, even in Embakasi, where poor people were evicted from a particular land parcel just because it belongs to a high and mighty office. No, that's not the way to go. Number one, life to humanity is very, very important. When we see such kind of evictions, even now, there are some emotive cases about some land in Gong that belongs to the Ministry of Environment, even about the Mao forest. What procedure did we adopt? Was it human-centered to evict these people? So PSG is ready to take up all these issues and ensure that we shall no longer fight. We shall no longer kill each other as a result of land.
I want to say that, Madam President, thank you for your time. Thank you for having us here. This is a conversation that we will want to take forward. It's a big one. We cannot finish it today, but we shall continue to engage as we want Kenyans to understand what a divine government can be. This is a big discussion, and probably next time we will engage on biblical issues so that we want to find the genesis of what a divine government can be.
Yes.
I've been your host, Enoch Mkoma. Till next time, God bless you. Keep it Uzalendo News. Thank you, Madam President.